or lighting or running machine, driving machines, pumping water, all kinds of. Now you see, approximately 50% of our energy, the primary energy, what gross energy you are drawing from the nature, half of it is transformed into the form of electricity and used, and half remains primary. Now a more advanced economy will have the share of electricity to be higher. Now you all know that there is a large area where electricity has not adequately penetrated, and there is a scarcity, and the quality of electricity also matters. So these issues and aspects are there. But again, electricity had also very important impact on communication. It is telecommunication first was a fallout of the second industrial revolution. Telegraph, telephone, radio, TV, and then, after the electronic chips, coming in the next century, then, there has been another revolutionary transformation. But it is electricity and electronics together that has made this recent, the last century, second half revolution, possible. Use of electricity vastly raised the efficiency of use of material. Incidentally, TV, radio, telegraph, communication, it had also very important social impact. Use of electricity vastly raised the efficiency of use of material and energy resources and the cleanliness of the workplace. Fast communication having an important impact on human mobility and opportunities of betterment of life and flow of knowledge and information. But, what is the but? But the problem is, these are all fossil fuel. Both the revolutions were fossil fuel based. And the adverse consequences due to greenhouse gas emission, these threat of climate change, they have all now come up as a very important challenge for the sustainability of human development, right? And global economic development. Hence, there has already started a widespread search for new carbon-free renewable energy resources, and which it is expected the days are coming which will bring a new third industrial revolution. Now this third industrial revolution, as those who are working on this concept, and they have a perception, they have a philosophy, not that we have to all agree with it, that what it should target to really transform the society and getting rid, minimizing the dependence on fossil fuel, ultimately just getting out of fossil fuel. Now this would revolve around development of renewables, obviously, hydrogen and fuel cell technology, and that of energy internet for energy sharing. What is this energy internet? Like for information or the net, we know what is network, what is the net, internet. Now, to understand this, those who have written on this subject, I find, they summarize that this new revolution will be based on 5 pillars. One is, every house, building, factory has to become also a power plant. It should be a cottage industry, because every construction, building should transform the wind, water, and say wind, solar energy, whatever it receives, or rains, water. Everything to be harvested and transformed to the extent technologically and organizationally feasible into power. Maybe in a large scale, very small scale, whatever be the scale. Now, an own requirement is to be met as far as possible by that generation. That is on the top of every roof, if there is a solar panel, and you heat your water to the extent is required, so you don't require them electrical energy. To that extent, electrical energy and fossil fuel burning is saved. Now, power to be produced, then mainly, and that power to be mainly out of these renewables and biotic resources. Biotic resources are also water-based. Hydroelectricity is also renewable because water, due to the water cycle, the energy based on biomass is also renewable because of carbon recycling. So these are all within this say, but about this biomass use there has to be a qualification, as I am coming to that later. Now, energy resource development, to converge with the development of communication technology and internet, leading to the emergence of smart grid of power. Now what would happen? You see, every construction, every unit of building, factory, etc., including power plant, everything is being included. They are producing some electricity. They have an own need of electricity. But then there may be either excess or shortfall. Now the excess is to be fed into the grid, right? Power grid which will transmit power. Shortfall is to be drawn from the grid. Now it is this network which will do the electrical energy movement network. Now, but that network now, generally what happens? Transmission network, distribution network. Power flows where it is required, right? So the signals come. But now what they say, I am not an expert in the field, but what I find they are writing, Chandru, please correct me if I am wrong, is that there will be two-way flow from every source or every consumer of power. Whether there is about the information about the demand level and excess supply level, and what would travel along the network is the information both ways. That is from the source of electricity to the consumer, and from the consumer to those who are requiring electricity, consuming electricity. So it is this two-way flow, and that is at a more advanced level of the information and energy flow, both ways. Right? It would show automated control system will be established that it will according to those information flow it will regulate the flow, divert the flows, right? So that there is a coordination, ends up with a coordination, and everybody as best as possible makes things operational. Of course, this is a very big challenge, and this also to a large extent depend on the efficiency of our software development, to which will ultimately, these are all computerized programs, which will be the automated control. This would enable a two-way flow of knowledge and for energy sharing, because whoever is excess, they can share with those who are in deficit. Excess area, deficit area. Now, automobiles, on the other hand, what about automobiles? Now, automobiles is an area where energy substitution as we find now. The fuel substitution is very difficult. You cannot get out of hydrocarbons so easily. It is only in railway you find electricity can be used. You can get out of hydrocarbons. But still, to what extent that is possible? What is the total movement of ton kilometer of freight goods or passenger kilometer of services? If you use them in these units, the major amount you find that between 85 to 90%, I think it may even be more, the share would be by road. Now, here, can electricity play a role? Because if electricity play a role, then only you can, also for mobility of goods and humans, you can depend on renewable. The target, what is the search for, is automobiles to be driven by electricity. This has started in some areas. Replacing internal combustion engine. A new technology is coming up where, but how, what would replace that? One is possibility is the use of hydrogen to be developed as an energy resource, and fuel cell is a device of storage of the resource and supply of electricity. I am not really, I am not fully understood. I have tried to, but I think you know much better about this fuel cell. I think it is one example is that water first by electrolysis is split, and hydrogen is taken out, and then hydrogen goes to the fuel cell, and it can transform it into electricity. Then again that electricity will have to be used to possibly, will end up with some water.
I don't know.
No, electricity will be again used through electrolysis process. But what I found, I am not being able to exactly recall, is that again end up with some water, and that water again would be recycled. So there is some cycle. But what I am confused about, is it a power plant or a transport vehicle? So it has to carry possibly that mini power plant, because the electricity has to be generated. Hydrogen can also come, I am told, in the other form of reagent, which can be used again to fuel cell, transform into electricity. But then again electricity has to be used in a manner that it can be repeated, and you have to, without, there is now in many places being used is battery. Your battery driven car, the battery you take out from time to time, put in a plug and recharge it, and then again you use it. That is, there are many places electric car, but they are of that kind of thing. But here what they are visualizing is a much more wider use, because if after going 30 kilometers or 40 kilometers you have to now get a place where you can recharge your battery, then it's a big hassle. So that, to upgrade it, the search is for this the fuel cells. All these would be accompanied, obviously, by fast digitization of, among other things, also of manufacture. This is what they are targeting about. Infrastructural, not only manufacture, infrastructural operations and development of new synthetic materials and technology, like 3D printing, which will enable achievement of higher energy efficiency. So energy efficiency is another dimension which they are targeting to achieve. Then the challenge of total supply of electricity will come down, and things will be manageable and better when possible with existing resources we can manage. Now, so that would enable achievement of higher energy efficiency, reduce the micro level scale of production, and make production of complex commodities also very cost effective. So these are all in the agenda. Among these 5 pillars, one is just not power. It is about automobile sector, fuel cell technology development, hydrogen's use to what extent is possible, and then digitization of manufacturing, digitization of operation of infrastructure, that is automation, and scale of production can be smaller scale and at micro level it will be very effective. Now, This means that, and then they say that emergence of distributed capitalism is possible, inclusive development will be possible. Because there will be then many players in the field. The only thing, all these descriptions which do not address the huge amount of capital financing, financial requirement which is required for the transformation, how can that be distributed? Who will control ultimately the flow of monetary resources, financial resources? That is going to ultimately determine. Many people may be participating, but they may be under the thumb of a number of financial, a limited number of financial. What discussion is all lacking is that how to finance such a big challenge. Who will provide it? To what extent state? To what extent you can have consortium? To what extent you can have cooperatives at a smaller level? How do you have empowerment, gradual empowerment of the people, of different sections of society, of differential economic ability, financial ability? How you can with them together, you can visualize the picture of development. These aspects are not being addressed. All these are mostly technologists and scientists and technologists. It is their vision. In fact, it's really very good that the humanity is thinking. There are innovative people, there are scientists very worried about Earth's future, and they are saying, oh no, something has to be done on a war footing. What has to be done? They have drafted some agenda. I am sure after 1 year or 2 years you will find this list to be changing. But what is needed, where social scientists, economists can contribute to see side by side that the operationalization is just not technology or physically operationalized, but also it has got its cost. One cannot just wish away the cost thing. And what is how can that make things operational and feasible? Now, let us see what is the growth of deployment of film technology as of today. Shows growth rate in the range of, I think the last decade, first decade of this century, 21st century. Well, this was in the range of 27% to 56%. If you look across, technology and across countries also. This is the way. However, we are still grappling with the problems of the second industrial revolution, the kind of pollution and also scarcity of the inexhaustible resources. There is still a huge dependency on fossil fuels. Fossil fuel has supplied 50% of the new energy demand in between 2001 and 2010. Whatever has been the additional energy demand, 50% has been made by of that energy demand has been made by fossil fuels. Oil has supplied 94% of the total fuel requirement of the transport sector. Non-hydropower from renewables supplied only 3% of final energy produced in 2009. That is, if you take hydro storage can supply a significant amount. But if you take that out, the new renewables does not include this storage hydro. That is big dams, etc. They are not included. They are not calculated. This calculus and balance sheet is prepared on the basis of the non-hydro, actually non-storage. They generally, new renewables take into account wind, solar power, and microhydel, what it is called, tidal, microhydel. And then also there is biomass based, but biomass based not unconverted, but converted into bagasse. Say you take the form of bagasse or other waste, right? Agro waste. and then convert them into in what is called the biodigester. In the digester, convert it into gas, biogas, and then that gas you use either for you're burning some stove, or you can use that more efficiently really for generating power at a micro scale, and which can be used for irrigation, particularly in rural areas. Now, so non-hydro, that means if we exclude the hydro storage and only take care of these renewables. Renewables do not include nuclear. Remember, renewables do not include nuclear. The thermal would include all these fossil fuels and fossil fuel being thermal, and then hydro storage, and then nuclear, then the rest we classify as new renewables. Now that new renewables was only about 3%. This has led to the steady rise in the CO2 emission. By now I am coming to only G20 countries. G20 would be covering about 80% of world population. I think around 80% of world population. The world emission in 2010 reached a record high of 30.6 gigaton that year. The G20 countries today account for 80% of the energy-related CO2 emission. And per capita CO2 emission widely varies across countries in the range from 1.4 to, I will not be able to see this figure, I think 1.4 to, I think this last line is not coming even in my computer somehow. I think 17.7, per capita. Because of the high OECD countries, high income countries. I think US is around 20. Now, what I will speak about rest depends on what is the time we can have.
Got another one. 20 minutes?
That is important. Now, I would say another issue about, okay, all these are causing, how can human use of energy or even other resources cause stress to the nature and to our ecosystems? Let us just digress to that, and then I again come back to energy. And when I come back to energy, I will mainly focus on India's current position about, I will show a few, charts and diagrams which will illustrate the situation, and then we will round up.
Yeah, just press F5. F5. Just press F5.
F5.
Yeah, okay. Oh, you have to go back to where you were. Just keep doing enter. Keep going.
Acha. No,
There you go.
now you see, there is this concept of ecological footprint. In the scientists or ecologists and eco-scientists, they have developed this concept. Now the issue was, how do we measure just as poverty is one aspect of, or Gini coefficient gives you one important parameter of development. How far things have developed? Have poverty been reduced apart from GDP per capita? Or it has been, or Gini coefficient has come down? What is the impact so far as social sharing of the product, social product is concerned? Similarly, issue comes up that, okay, apart from the aspect of social sustainability, right, which is linked with the sharing of benefit of growth, what is happening, the stress we are causing to the ecosystem? Because if the ecosystem goes on eroded, then there will be ending up with the problem of scarcity of resources, depreciated. There are no minerals, no, and the other thing is, so biomass has been, forests are denuded, vast areas denuded of forest, desertification has taken place, right? Then qualitative aspect, air pollution, water pollution, the amount of drinkable water for the humans, if it comes down. So then there is going to be a huge crisis. So how to measure this? Now there have been several, attempts of doing this. This is what scientists did. There is another, sometimes people only go by CO2 because climate zones who are climate, this is somewhat policy driven. What kind of policy issues people want to take up, and accordingly they develop the indicator. So this is one kind of indicator where it is the ecosystem must have its productivity, regenerating ability. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is climate change must be controlled. There has been a third aspect that human health and ecosystems health has to be protected. And along that line, Columbia University and Yale, these two universities, both scientists and I think also some of the social scientists, they have worked together and they developed an index. What is its name? EPI percentage, Environmental Performance Index. Now, these indices are prepared for all the countries as far as possible. In fact, in 2011, a Human Development Report, which is on development and equity aspect. Now there they have addressed the equity, human development, environmental development and GDP growth. All these they have very interesting tables that volume consists, where side by side they show HDI index, excluding the income part, because in one sense in HDI, if you consider HDI, then it also considers, suppose you are comparing with GNP per capita, which every report does. Now you are comparing one with its one index and the other is one of the subsets, one of the components. So which is not true independent comparison. So that is why they have put this non-income HDI, also per capita income, per capita CO2 emission, and then also this EPI index. Now, I will not go to the EPI index, I will go to this ecological footprint and biocapacity. This is in short the following. Any human consumption, right, it will require some land use. Either the land produces some output which is consumed, or it indirectly, how it is affected, it causes a diversion of the use of land use. For example, you will find, I do not have it here, possibly. No, I do not have that graph here. You see, there is this cropland demand for food, right? Food and other agricultural products. Then there is pasture demand for animal feed, right? That is also for human, ultimately for human consumption, because all meat product and all that. Third, say, fishing area, the water area in which both coastal and in the inland, whatever is, wherever you are harvesting, you consider those areas. They are being, appropriated for the human consumption. Then would come, among other things, say, industrial products. You require minerals, you require mines, and factory construction. Towns are developing. Now, all these would be, building and other construction, where these operations can take place. Now which will be demanding certain diversion of land, certain use of land. Every year so much land is being occupied. Now, and then you will find, now these are all per capita calculated, how much is going from what. And then there is also one column you will find in such table, which is carbon footprint. What is carbon footprint? Carbon footprint is, now all fossil fuel, when this fossil fuel is burned, there is carbon dioxide emission. Now carbon, by the recycling, by through photosynthesis, a large part is absorbed, recycled. Ocean also absorbs, particularly North Atlantic, a huge amount of carbon dioxide. But still there is a significant balance, unabsorbed carbon dioxide. And it is that carbon dioxide which is the cause of worry for climate change. Okay? So that contributes to the worry. Now, this, they calculate that if that carbon dioxide is to be absorbed through recycling, then how much forest area would be required? Mind you, forest use of land is also one column, but that forest use is only for forest product for which humans are interested. That does not include this area. Now when this is calculated, it is considered that whatever even that existing forest which is giving human certain products, timber or non-timber forest products, even they would absorb also something. Even taking care of all these, netting out, then whatever is the balance, how much is required for that? That is called carbon footprint. Now I have this table where there is, now the sum of all those footprints, it gives you the total ecological footprint. Now how, you see, what is the significance? How do we add it? What does it mean? Different land is performing different kind of function. It is really found out what is its productivity as per the photosynthetic ability for the cropland. If crop is to be produced, this has a certain efficiency. Now, cropland equivalent, there is all are normalized in terms of the numerator as it is in cropland. Whatever is productivity of say fishing ground or forest and cropland. Now in the cropland, because it is monoculture, it is considered to be one of the highest productivity. So now this, if you convert a land area in the efficiency unit of cropland, and then again in different places productivity is different, taken the global average, so global average typical in cropland unit, these are all calculated. Once they are calculated, then you find out then you can compare across countries. Now, it is very interesting that the carbon footprint in this total calculation, carbon footprint for the world is 1.41 and total ecological footprint is 2.7 in that year 2007, for which it was here shown. So, more than 52.2% is really the carbon footprint, and rest is all non-carbon footprint. Now, this is one side. The other side is what is the biocapacity? That means different land biodiversity, of different categories. How much of, again in terms of global average productivity, how much it could have given. Now you will find forest area, still we are excess. We means in the world, it has got area. What we are using, it can, if you want, it can provide more. Similarly for several other things. But when it comes to carbon footprint, the biocapacity side there is nothing. Because there is no land which is absorbing. This is what is excess requirement. So it is because of this carbon footprint that you are finding the total ecological stress in terms of ecological footprint is so high. This people would now say, science policy people, that now the whole thrust of science policy the word should be towards is carbon reduction, low carbon growth, and to reduce the carbon footprint. And then you immediately end up with what is the major source? More than 50%, around 60% source is just from fossil fuel. And this carbon footprint is not fossil fuel, not for any other thing. So that is why all these, noise and discussions around this. Now, when you try to abate and when you try to follow a low carbon growth, right, mitigation, adaptation, etc., all kinds of, then of course you have various problems which has got various macroeconomic implications. Because that could lead to a different area of research and discussion. Just as I pointed out that third industrial revolution, what they're trying to do, how to finance such a challenge, just that opens up an area of investigation and economic research. Similarly, this also, you cannot just wish away, tomorrow all carbon footprint would be gone. What actually now the global community, they have accepted that, well, everything cannot be abated. We cannot, if you really want that, then the carbon is to be stabilized at such a level that many countries' GDP would have to be slashed. Such a negative growth is required to really constant climate condition, if you try. Now, since that would not be feasible, what people are trying to do, stabilize at a level where things are so manageable, maybe slowly growing, growth rate, try to minimize as far as possible. But what is, to some climate change, it will be inevitable. What is the best way to adapt to that climate change? Climate change would happen. And in the history of humanity of this earth, many things has happened. Which is, if you look at the history of, world's history of environment, there has been changes. In fact, I was chatting one day with one of my geologist friends of Delhi University, now retired. He says that actually the earth is now on the downswing of this ice age, that started movement towards ice age. Now what is happening? What will be the impact of that? Now the curve is not smooth. The curve will be zigzag, and the trend is downward. Now what would happen? This human intervention and too much of growth, it would have a some zigzag, a kink like this, and then again it would come down. But what would happen? That kink itself possibly within 200, 300 years or 400 years. Now there within that period, the human suffering should be involved because of all climate change, flooding, and this what all we read about. The island countries will be very much suffering, or ocean level will rise, etc., etc. Now, but to meet the challenge of both mitigation, because it would be a combination of mitigation and adaptation. Adaptation is what can we do so that the suffering can be minimized? What kind of infrastructure we should develop so that floods can be resisted? Inundation can be resisted. So, for that, you have to spend again. So, some cost of anything, just the other day I was listening to some presentation where saying that, well, this is a completely win-win situation, we have no cost. I think that the world is always, I find that in such a position that anything you want to achieve, you have to sacrifice at some other end. What value you impute to them, it depends on that. Maybe that your value system changes, then you may welcome certain things which will make things easier. So now, after this, so that economics of this mitigation and adaptation, that is a huge area, and many people are working. And what is this micro, macro implication? These are all linked with, economics of any economic activity which is mediated by water. There you will find the challenges arising and how to meet these challenges and what is the economic part, what it would involve in the analysis. Now this is what carbon footprint and around 75 to 75 and 80 actually the biocapacity, ecological capacity of the earth we have crossed. Things are moving.
Number of, what is that, does that say number of earths?
Number of earth means total demand of land area.
Land area.
And how many
Calculating it in terms of some standardized land.
right standardized.
Huge number of assumptions in such a.
Yes, yes, of course.
So,
And actually it requires, I wrote one small dissertation paper which Madras School published. But there I noted what kind of strong assumptions are there. Very difficult and very challenging to know. There are also people, scientists have worked on living planet.
We wanted to
How much of biomass is there? What kind of variety? What is what total quantum of that? In terms of the things and everything.
carbon dioxide.
You know, let me tell you, that biomass, various kinds of species, not only plants. If plants are all gone, within a few days, everything, all animal species will be gone, including humans. But the diversity, not just existence of various species, but also diversity is very important because they keep the balance of the earth, the eco-balance of the earth. If they are, suppose some area is very much denuded of the biodiversity, ultimate impact would be that you will find not only a lot of bio outputs we will be missing for consumption, but a more important thing is this: the resilience power of ecosystem will be gone. What is resilience power? Suppose there has been a shock to the ecosystem, a huge flood, and an earthquake, a storm cyclone. Say this Orissa cyclone, what was 90s, sometimes in 90s, which was the worst of in our memory.
1990.
Now it was the scientists said that to get back to the old ecological landscape, which is mainly determined by the biodiversity, minimum requirement is 50 years. Now you see, why we do not talk about that? Because we neglect those areas, possibly, or until people feel the pinch of it. Most probably poor people must feel the pinch of it. Now, let me quickly go to, now these are India's ecological footprint, per capita GDP growth, and India's biocapacity. See the comparative levels. The scale is different. Right-hand side scale is GDP per capita, and left-hand side scale is, I think, global hectare per person. So these two are different scale, but the slope, how it has grown, and how these two curves have moved, both have gone down, biocapacity as well as A. Because if appropriation is more than the biocapacity, then the capacity will be eroded. This is the problem. Now, if you come to this is China. Now China's situation is, they have a sharper growth of GDP. But their biocapacity has very moderately declined, but their footprint has gone up like anything. It is only after, I think, 2000, around after There is no recovery, it's steadily declining. But the footprint increasing is only after, I think in the first decade, I think their policies getting possibly reflected here.
Why is it stable? Why is it stable?
Sir, this is the per capita thing, global ecological footprint per
Per
capita.
capita.
So that means a population rise will have a negative impact. It is perilous.
Yes, the per capita actually how much consumption is mattering. That is the thing. And on the other hand, the availability, that figure will also be going down. So it is the difference between the two which really matters.
Why is biocapacity stable in China over the last 4 decades?
Like India is also,
No, it's
that
coming
means
down.
the bio,
In India it's coming down, but in China it's stable. And didn't you say that the ecological footprint should actually has an impact on the biocapacity? Effectively.
biocapacity, no. If biocapacity is falling short, biocapacity is falling short of footprint,
Then
there
over time-
is a deficit. That is
But-
called
yeah.
That is called
That's
ecological
right.
deficit.
Yes.
The ecological deficit would erode the reproductive capacity of the
Exactly.
ecosystem.
Exactly. So therefore the biocapacity should come down, especially here when the gap is growing
China's
so
high.
dramatically.
Now-
Yet it is stable.
It
In
is,
India it's coming down and that makes sense. But in
Uh-huh.
China it is stable. That's what I don't
you know,
understand.
I don't know, this is what I found and I am showing. But yes, you are right, that there are some puzzles.
This is India.
I
but China
I
is-
think India's data are more honest data. Because
So that basically-
if there is, one cannot doctor and dictate about the data. That is one of our great point. Because biocapacity reversing is very difficult, very, very difficult.
Biocapacity
You have to do
absorbs
such
power.
ecological engineering what they
Absorption
call.
power of the
It's
carbon
very
dioxide,
challenging.
of the ecological footprint.
What's the productivity of the bio resource and increase? That's why the biocapacity has been more stable.
It's possible that part of the, that this, but then policies to do it didn't really start in the 2000s. And you're looking at a longish
You
period
see,
from the, especially from the
if by biotechnology, if you can make it more productive, then in terms of cropland, unit, it is possible under certain situation, it will now be, it has augmented as compared to earlier.
But that's now, and we are looking at 3-4 decades of stability.
Which one?
This one, we are looking at really 3 decades of stability.
It is, no, there is gradual some decline. There is gradual some decline, it was here. This is the scale, not this scale. This is the scale and it is
Have you
here.
got a graph for any other country other than India? Let's see. Do you see also there is a decline as well?
Yeah, it should be a decline. Decline makes sense. That's why I find China so interesting.
EU.
EU also like more.
EU is more stable. But
Again, it's slightly rising, in fact, if you look at it from the mid-70s.
these
What is the
Europeans
exact
are quite crazy about ecosystem conservation and
No, but what
sustainability.
is, how is it measured?
What is the definition of
Uh,
biocapacity?
There is different. both
Can I
the
just
sides.
add something, ma'am? It is possible that the emission is impacting somewhere else. In other words, the ecological footprint that you are collecting, that you are calculating is out of the production and consumption that is taking place within the economy. But the footprint is taking place somewhere else. So as a result of which, biocapacity within the domestic territory.
Yes,
No,
it is.
isn't the footprint
No,
calculated
no, no,
in
no.
terms of
No,
domestic
no.
production?
It's calculated in terms of domestic
Listen.
production.
In
No,
fact,
listen,
that's the
listen,
debate,
listen,
because people
listen,
say
listen,
it
let-
should look at consumption.
No,
but
let
in
me
fact-
correct it.
Yeah.
So far as trade flows are concerned,
Yeah.
whatever is imported,
Hmm.
right, it is calculated here, importing country's footprint,
Oh, is
and
that
not there.
No, no. In fact, I read many articles which are saying that it should be that way, but it isn't.
So in this
Oh,
calculation,
in
what I
this
am
calculation, okay.
and the formula,
Yeah.
but in that
This includes the
in that
import.
small monogram,
Ah.
I have explained all this.
So
But
basically-
in my book also, I have explained this thing. But if it is exported, then it will be on the customer. Those who are importing, it will be on their account. It will be on their account. So that way the question that you are raising is very pertinent. That,
Because it's still that, then it makes even less sense.
right, right, right.
Then you should actually see a much more significant decline.
Okay. Now, to ensure the control of GHG emission, the G20 countries need to cooperate. This was about the G20, and I had to give some seminar in G20, some research forum, and give special thrust to the following issue, which is irrespective of G20 is valid. Energy conservation by raising efficiency of end use of energy. That is one. Raising